So today we're talking all about DSARs. I'm joined by Kennet Johansen from Netwrix. Netwrix are a leading provider of data security solutions. Kennet, thank you very much for joining me today.
You're welcome, Jonathan.
So to get started, what is a DSAR? What does a DSAR mean?
So DSAR is actually an abbreviation of Data Subject Access Request. So it's something that, for all European citizens came around with the release of the GDPR, implementation of GDPR, where we as people, as data subjects, now has the right to request access to our own data. So whenever a company, wherever in the world are processing our data, we actually now can request access to our own data. So that's what a DSAR is in general terms.
Okay, and what does the process look like if someone wants to request a DSAR? How do they go about that, and what does the process look like?
So basically, somebody writes you an email. It could be me writing, whoever processed my data, you or anybody else. Just send an email, send a regular mail, whatever, kind of way of communicating with someone and saying, hey, I want to have access. There's no formal way. The easiest, of course, is just to send an email. So you send an email to the company that you think process your data, and you ask them, say, I need access to my data, please provide them to me. And that's the start of the process. And then all the different countries has to have their own process for that. In general, the process is about that they, acknowledge that they received the request for access, and then they go through the process of collecting the data that they have stored in whatever data sources they have internally, collect all that, put it into a package that's a very important thing for them. It has to be machine readable, and then they send it off when everything has been, validated, and, are you the right person? And then they validate all those things, and then they'll send the data to the citizen or the data subject. The only tricky thing here is that you can't come into a situation as a business to send, data to a wrong person. So they need to have a part of that process that validates that this is a genuine request for access, not somebody trying to steal information.
And what are if the company is unable to provide all the correct data, what are the implications?
If they aren't willing to do it, as a data subject, you can go to the local data authority and basically make a formal complaint about it, and they have to look into it. And eventually they can end up with that company being sued, basically, and has to pay some kind of fine based on, whatever things they have said no to provide to you. Right. Because there are situations where certain companies are allowed to say no if it is in the best interest of the country, and not the persons. There are a few examples where some companies can say, but in general, they have to provide you copies of all the data they have around you. Or if they're not willing to do so, you just go to the local data authority and basically complain about it.
Okay. In your experience, what are the most common reasons for a DSAR?
So the most common reasons will be something like, are you handling my data correctly? We all store data with different companies in the world, and, they have to make sure that they store the data the best way possible, the most secure way. So what people in general are afraid of is that, are they data being shared with somebody that they shouldn't? What kind of data do they actually have about people? So in general, it's, for many people, is kind of interest or a sense of, do they handle my data correctly?
I guess also if an employee is leading a business, they want to make sure that the data that the business has had on them is stored in the correct place. And
yeah. So if that happens, it's a matter of basically the company's deletion policies, because that's the normal part of data security. You need to make sure that you know when to delete data, when are you not allowed to basically process data from a data subject. And that's a part of that response that you actually have to give to a DSAR, to a data subject that makes that DSAR request, is saying that, when do we expect to delete the data? In your case, some employee leaves the company, he or she wants to make sure that the company deletes the data. They are allowed to say, this is the data we have, and we will delete the data in, let's say, in a month, whatever their process are. There's no defined terms on when that should be. There's some guidelines in there, but not definitely this has to be month after, something like that.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Kennet, thank you very much for joining me today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for watching today's video. Be sure to keep following us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube for the daily video updates.